All right, happy Thursday, everyone. Here's another episode of Tech Talk. Today, we're going to be covering building the timing box. Okay, and the timing box refers to the first three rows on a dragon boat. And so, if you want to apply this to outrigger as well, outrigger would be the first two rows or so. Sometimes you can include the third as well. But on the dragon boat, it's really the front section. You're building the best timing box that you can. And timing box is just a term that we use to talk about keeping time in the front. Our mission, as always, is to help develop community-focused paddlers and leaders and to provide mindset, technique, and coaching talks to support you and your goals. On the agenda today, we're going to cover some of the criteria that I use for placing someone in the stroke seat. Know that for the stroke, we refer to row one as the stroke seat, but really, even within those two, there's one lead stroke. In terms of the criteria, we look at physical, we look at mental, we look at technical, and we look at communication. So I'm going to break down each of these parts to talk about how we select our stroke seats. Then we're going to talk about seat two, row two, and their duties, and also seat three and their duties as well. And then as a whole, one, two, and three, those six people, what are the responsibilities of the timing box? All right. All right. So let's look at the stroke seat. Some of the criteria that we look at, we're looking at physical attributes, mental attributes, technical skills, and communication skills. And so when we look at physical attributes, all right, we're looking at overall someone who is consistent with their paddling technique, regardless of the conditions. And so anyone who sits in the front or you watch a dragon boat, when the dragon boat is up to speed, there could be different conditions that come to you in the front, right? There could be waves, there could be bow waves coming at you. If you're doing 2K turns, things might get a little choppy when the wind is blowing a certain direction. Conditions could change. If you're seated in row one, you have to have consistent paddling, even no matter what the conditions are, right? Because you're setting the pace for everyone else behind you. You want to make sure seat one has excellent endurance to maintain form throughout the entire race. And so when we think about seat one, we don't need seat one to be the strongest paddler on the boat. It's okay if they are, but they don't have to be. The main reason is because the goal is actually for the first seat to set a technique that is consistent, that is maintaining form throughout the entire race so that everyone behind them can follow. You'll hear terms like set up big, get a big reach, get your body up front, set the tempo right? These are the things that the stroke seat need to continue to do throughout the entire race, whether it's a 200 meter, a 500 meter, a 2K, a 1K, regardless of the distance, seat one needs to be in excellent conditioning and fitness to keep the form the entire time, right? You do want good power to weight ratio, and we use terms like you want seat one to help break the water, meaning you want them to be strong enough to grab the clean water that is in front. Well, I wouldn't say clean because depending on the bow wave, but you get a really strong grab in the front, and you have to be able to use and maximize your power through that stroke. And so a note here is that you want to have power without excessive size. And honestly, this size thing is relative to the boat, right? So you could have, you can have certain countries with teams that are average weight is really high. So if a boat average weight is 200, you might be putting a 165 person or a 180 person in the front. But if your whole crew is maybe average weight is like 150 or lower, then you're probably looking at a 120 pounder or a 140 pounder to sit in the front. So again, good power to weight ratio. The paddler should be a strong paddler for their weight. And then that way they also have consistent paddling, technique, good endurance, that they can maintain form is someone that you look for in terms of physical attributes for a stroke seat. And most important is really maintaining a consistent stroke rate. And In a few talks before, I talked about needing to be able to change your rate based on conditions. You want a stroker, a pacer who is able to make those small adjustments, those micro adjustments on timing, depending on those conditions. But overall, they can maintain a consistent stroke rate that is easy to follow from everyone else behind them. Okay, so physical attributes, these are the things that I look for. Next is mental attributes. What are the mentality of the people that you want to select for stroke seat? You need someone who has strong focus and concentration. You want someone who is able to keep the timing without second guessing themselves. Someone who can make a call and be ready to go. They're focused, they're concentrated, they're able to connect with the water and find it. They know what's going on. They have peripheral vision and that they are mentally strong and focused the entire time. You also want someone who is able to be calm under pressure, right? Being in the front, you're the one leading the boat. You're the one leading the rest of the team to follow your rate. When things happen, people will look to you. So you got to be able to stay calm under pressure and keep consistent with what you're supposed to be doing. Also, in terms of mentality, you got to be the stroke seat needs to be receptive to feedback from the drummer and also from the coach or even from the steers and even from the people around them, right? As the pacer, as the person in row one, you have to be flexible, but you also need to be confident in what you're doing, right? So it's a fine balance. You don't want to be just listening to what everyone says and not having your own opinion. But at the same time, you can't be so stubborn that you're not taking any feedback. So it's a very fine line to balance, and you need a person who is able to balance both of those things. You also need someone who is able to execute a race plan well. So as you think about someone who is going to sit in row one, they have to know the game plan. If it's a 200-meter game plan, a 500-meter game plan, and so forth. On a 2K, what's the game plan? That they are able to execute it precisely. All right. So these are the mental attributes for seat one. And I think most importantly for seat one is that the person has to be humble, but also competitively driven. Right. So you don't want to put someone who doesn't want to be up there to be up there. You need someone who is wanting that role, that is competitive and wanting to drive the crew forward. But the person also has to be humble, right? So you're looking for someone who is a leader, but not a dictator or not a someone who's demanding things from the crew. They want success, but they're gonna lead by example. All right. All right. So next, the third criteria is looking at technical skills. The person in seat one, they have to be technically sound because again, you're setting up the rest of the boat to be to follow you, right? So in terms of skills, we're looking for clean, consistent catch and timing, right? Making sure the timing is correct and making sure the catch is always clean, that it's set up big, that it's set up deep, so that everyone else behind you can follow. You want excellent blade technique and blade work, right? You want full blades buried, you want full immersion of the water. And then when you take the stroke, you want body movement all the way through. You want top arm strong and you want clean exits, right? So the whole thing, the whole stroke has to be clean and they should be able to do that technique, that technically sound stroke every stroke, right? And then this is the part where I talk about the micro adjustments on the rate. The stroker has to be able to make small changes to the rate depending on what the conditions of the race is, as well as what other crews might be doing and what we need to do for the game plan, right? So if we're close to the finish and we might need to call an early finish, can the stroker make those adjustments on the rate so that the rest of the boat can follow, right? They got to maintain the form, and that goes into physical, right? They got to also be mentally ready so that they know this is the game plan and then have the skills to actually take up the rate as needed. Also, they need to have a consistent stroke length. And this is could be different based on the start, based on the body, and based on the finish. But in each of those sequences, you want the stroke who is able to keep a consistent length so that the rest of the boat again can follow. You also want someone who can read and adjust the water as needed. And these are all technical skills that a stroker will need to develop. All right. You also want quick reactions so that you can be the stroker can respond right away, right? So in case, for example, on a 2K, if you end up swerving or something, you want a stroker who can react quickly and draw the boat or poke the boat as necessary to move the boat in the right direction, right? These are all, or if you're about to hit a boat or whatnot, that they can make a call to then get everyone else to follow. All right. Last criteria is I look at communication skills, right? So when you look at the people in the front, the stroker has to be able to communicate and have nonverbal communication with the drummer, right? Um, it could be nonverbal because you're paddling, but it could also be a good kind of relationship communication with the drummer saying, "Hey, how's the back of the boat doing? Hey, how's the rate? Is everyone able to keep up?" Right? So things like that the stroker is able to communicate with the drummer throughout the race to make adjustments as needed. The stroker also needs to be able to feel out the boat momentum and then respond accordingly. And we don't when I talk about boat momentum, it's it's the momentum of the boat, like the actual physical momentum of the boat, but it's also the energy momentum of the boat. Like, does the boat feel like they're ready to go kick it up a notch? And if that energy is there, the stroker needs to be able to respond. And then if the boat doesn't feel like if it feels sleepy, then the stroker also needs to respond accordingly, depending on whether they're able to bring the energy up or it stays at that level. And again, also being able to be receptive to feedback during the races, right? So as you're paddling, if the rate is too high and the drummer says, "Hey, I think the rate is too high," is the stroker able to then make an adjustment and respond to the feedback accordingly? Okay. And then I think another important thing is leadership presence. That goes back to the being humble part, right? Does your stroker have leadership presence where the rest of the team has buy-in for that person, right? And that I think is that extra chemical X, that extra 10% that will help your crew become even more successful, that the strokers have that presence. That and I think a way to look at it is that these strokers, they lead by example, meaning they by the work that they do, the performance that they have, the aura that they have that they exude, that they lead by example and they don't lead by their score. So it's not like, oh, I'm the fastest, therefore I'm in the front. It's more, I put in the work and the coach wants me to be here. I'm happy to be here and I'm confident. But I'm here to support the team, whatever the team needs, right? So it's more leading by example, team player, as opposed to me. I want to be in the front. Okay. When we look at row two, the duties of the row two is to protect the stroke rate that is set by row one, right? So oftentimes you'll feel a rush from the back. Row two and three really is there to help protect row one. And then also if the stroker picks up too high or that rate stays too low, that they are able to provide immediate feedback saying, "Hey, bring it down," or "Hey, bring it up," right? And again, they want to make sure that they are getting good, consistent catches, good, consistent exits, clean exits, so that row three and on back have clean water, right? So don't dig up the blade, causing little cavitations. You want to keep it deep so that the water stays clean for everyone behind them. And if anything happens, let's say row one ends up needing to poke or draw or they lose a paddle, that row two is able to keep continuing the tempo as if they are the backup stroke, right? So these are all duties for row two and continue to maintain that stroke length. Okay, row three. This is the last row of the timing box. And really, row three's role is to be supporting row one and two, but also helping to lead the engine room, four, five, six, and on. So they are bridging the gap between the front and the back. The hope is that they're able to provide good consistent stroke length, and then apply power for row 3, but also on back, right? You want the engine to be bought in to help power the boat forward. If there's a rush in the back, you want 3 to be able to communicate that timing issue to the front, right? And if there are issues from the front, or if there's a pickup, you can then communicate it to the back as well. 3, very important that they maintain discipline during the rate changes, because the back will have a tendency to want to bring the rate up really high, right? There's the engine rush. The three has to maintain discipline to not push 2 and 1, and to then tell the back engine to slow down. Okay. And really, it's about setting the example for the middle rows and the engine. So collectively, the timing box, once you go through kind of those 4 criteria to select row 1, row 2, and row 3, collectively, the timing box responsibility is to maintain the boat rhythm regardless of the conditions, regardless of the place. You want to keep everyone moving as one unit. So it's really important that the first 6 are really in sync. You want to execute clean transitions during the rate changes. And so that's going to take paddling time together, right? And then you want to provide the stable platform for the rest of the boat, for the engine and the rockets to then apply power to move the boat forward, right? So that is the whole collective responsibility of the timing box. The rush from the engine will come, and the timing box has to stay locked in so that they don't take on the rush, and then they communicate to the back that, hey, slow your rate down so that we can all work together. All right? Very good. So I have a paddling school community online. If you join today, it's a 7-day free trial. You can win prizes at the end of each month, and I give out weekly workouts and access to courses about paddling. And do get in before prices go up, and the link is below. Thank you all for tuning in to tonight's Tech Talk. If that was valuable to you, please drop a comment, drop a like, or share it to a friend that you think will benefit from this. Thank you so much for tuning in.